All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being here with me today. We got a lot to get into. Today we got to discuss what is going on with the Charlie Kirk investigation. Why do we have pretty much nothing besides incoherent rambling, besides text messages that are obviously touched and altered with? And why are our officials, and the ones I'm talking about are Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, of course, the Attorney General and the FBI Director, who are supposed to be heading up this investigation, why are they doing anything but that? Why is there a gaping hole in place of where leadership should be? And why do we have zero faith as a society, zero faith that the FBI's conclusions about this are going to be real? Go find one person who says the FBI's story is going to be the real story. Whether the narrative or pieces of evidence, nobody believes that the whole story will be presented to us by the institutions in this country, and that's a problem. So we're going to get into all that and more today on the Quest for Clarity podcast.
Americanism, not globalism.
I am not a slave. I am a free citizen.
There should be no Federal Reserve System.
Only America first.
End all of these wars.
America is trying to play empire. We want everything released, and you're actively covering it up. It's not America first to be pushing our influence in areas where it shouldn't be. We're run by people that don't understand what they're doing and don't understand the ramifications of the policies they're enacting. That's an incredibly dangerous situation.
All right, everybody, before we begin, if you wouldn't mind going right down below and hitting like and subscribe on this video, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you could go and follow my pages on Instagram, X, and Spotify, I would really appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. Thank you guys so much. But let's get right into the news. So, just yesterday, Pam Bondi, the news broke that Pam Bondi is in the midst of crafting up laws, seemingly, around hate speech. And she revealed this on Katie Miller's podcast. I believe she's the wife of Stephen Miller, who is in the Trump administration dealing with the border. But she has a podcast in the White House where I guess she just interviews this list of guests of people in the administration. And Pam Bondi went on and they did their whole reaction to the Charlie Kirk shooting. And Pam Bondi decided that was the right place to announce that there is going to be hate speech laws being put into place, seemingly. And they will be cracking down on this hateful rhetoric, which, according to her, is not protected by the First Amendment. That's right. The leading law enforcement officer in the United States, our Attorney General, just told everyone that hate speech is not protected by the First Amendment. Here's the clip.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
Now, I think we all know, and I think Pam Bondi knows, that whether we think something is hateful or wrong or ignorant or rude or disgusting or bigoted, in almost all cases, in pretty much all cases, you have the right to say it. Whether we agree with it or not, whether people's reaction to Charlie Kirk's death was what we would like to see or not, the government is in no place and has no right to tell people what they should be saying. I don't want to hear the words hate speech come out of anyone in government's mouths. And I've been consistent on this. If you recall, just a couple months back, we've had, for months now, honestly, we've had the drama at the universities where there has been this major federal crackdown on speech when it comes to the pro-Palestine protests on college campuses. Now, whether I think these campuses should receive the amount of federal funding that they do is another question. I would say no. But what I'm actually upset with is that they're taking the federal funding as a result of speech. These college campuses are allowing their campuses to be used for protests. And in some of these protests, not most of them, not all of them at all, but in some of these protests, the protesters take it a little bit too far and start saying things like pro-Hamas slogans or anti-Jewish slogans. And as a result of that, there have been harassment claims, and the Trump administration is pulling federal funding from these universities. Now, whether they have the right to pull the funding at all is another question. I guess in some cases they do, in some cases they don't. But if we're doing this on the pretext of speech, I am against that. I don't want the federal government stepping in and dictating what I can say and what I can think. Because when they do that, as Tucker Carlson said correctly yesterday, they believe you don't have a soul. They believe you don't have the right to craft your own opinions. And our country was built, and Charlie Kirk lived his life with the idea that you are free to think what you want and free to say what you want. And that the government has no place to dictate subjectively what is hateful. Because the term hateful itself, the term hate speech itself, is up to interpretation by whoever wields the authority to dictate what is hateful. And all too often, it seems like the government wants to grab any chance they can onto that authority, as we see in Britain, as we see in Germany, as we see in France, all across Europe, all across the Western world. The governments are raring to take away the rights of their citizens, take away the freedom of speech of their people. And the United States, thank God, has a First Amendment that is pretty strong, that has helped us avoid this in the past. And I'm sure it will this time as well. And here are some of the times in the past where hate speech has been upheld, not because I like the speech, but because if we are to be subjective for once on speech, then who's to say that we aren't going to be subjective for further instances of this? Who's to say that the next government, the next administration that gets in, isn't going to use this against their political opponents? So, Terminelio versus Chicago, Brandenburg versus Ohio, National Socialist Party versus Skokie, RAV versus City of St. Paul, Virginia versus Black, and Snyder versus Phelps. Those are 6 Supreme Court cases where the precedent that free speech is protected speech was upheld. And given that Pam Bondi, I'm of course no legal expert. I've looked this up because I knew there were cases like this. And I am no expert at any level, even remotely close to Pam Bondi. And all it took was a quick Google search to dispel her entire narrative. And I'm not the only one doing this today. Everyone in conservative media is doing this today and calling for her to be fired. And I'm going to do the same thing right now. Pam Bondi needs to go. Pam Bondi has made blunder after blunder after blunder. When is enough enough? When do we say we actually have standards in this administration? We allow mediocrity left and right. We're going to get into Kash Patel in a minute, who's no better. But Pam Bondi, from Epstein to this, she has been nonstop blundering everything she gets her hands on. We all know the entire Epstein, the infamous now, content creator meeting at the White House, where Pam Bondi handed them all the binders, where it said Epstein Files, Phase 1. They open them up, and they post everything online, and there's nothing new. And all their credibilities are shot, because Pam Bondi thought she was being cute by having some publicity stunt in the White House, and inviting all the content creators in to expose all the Epstein secrets that were not even there. And now this. Pam Bondi is using the death of Charlie Kirk to enact hate speech laws. Do I have to remind everyone out there that the Republicans and the right-wingers and the conservatives have been the ones for the past decade saying that there is no such thing as hate speech and that this is just a subjective term used by the government to crack down on speech that threatens their power? I'm not crazy, right? We've all been saying that for years. And now the MAGA administration, the Republican administration, is going to come in and threaten to put down hate speech laws? No. Absolutely not. Why do we put up with that? Our elected official that we enthusiastically voted for has the power to stop this. And what does he say? He makes a funny joke on the way to the helicopter about, well, I might sue ABC. You've been pretty unfair to me. Can we get real for a second? Can we get real? Now, Kash Patel is no better. Kash Patel, on the night of Charlie Kirk's assassination, where was he? He was making posts on Twitter. He was updating the world about the suspect, the release of the first suspect, the bringing in of the second suspect, the releasing of that suspect. Where was he doing all this? Was he on the scene? Was he traveling to the scene of the crime? No, he was at Rayo's, a restaurant. He was at dinner. You know, you would think that the assassination of not just a prominent political figure, but your friend, would at least call for a rescheduling of the dinner. He was tweeting. The imagery of this is so ridiculous. He was tweeting updates to the world about the whereabouts of the suspects, about the updates on the search for the assassin, from a dinner table in a fancy restaurant. Guys, wake up. What is going on? Why do we put up with it? Pam Bondi needs to go. Kash Patel needs to go. They both destroyed the credibility of this Justice Department for this administration. When it comes to Epstein, they hyped it up for months, for years. In Kash Patel's case, he dedicated his life to hyping up the Epstein files, saying he's seen things. And then he gets into office, and today he was correctly pressed on it at his committee hearing. He was correctly pressed on it, and all his responses is making jokes, insulting the lawmakers, who I have no sympathy for, but that's all his responses were. He was insulting the lawmakers when they were asking him perfectly fair questions about the Epstein files. And he had no answer. Go watch the tape. No answer. And you see the people on Twitter just eating this up. Oh, Kash Patel destroyed the libs. Like, guys, this is not a good look. The FBI director is evading questions about the Epstein files. You think this is a win? And you better enjoy these 4 years then, because if this is what you guys are projecting, this is insane. Then of course we had Pam Bondi, who we don't have to go through the entire thing, but she hyped up Epstein for months, all for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to sign off on that memo that said nothing there, move on. You're all conspiracy theorists for noticing what we've been hyping up for months. When do we all collectively get insulted that we're being told what's blatantly in our face is not there? The incompetency is what I'm talking about. When Joe Biden was going through his whole mental decline, and the Democrats and the Biden administration were all gaslighting their voters and saying, there's nothing there, you're a conspiracy theorist, that you guys are mean, you're being mean to Biden, and that all these videos of him bumbling around are cheap fakes, and they're all being altered or edited, we correctly called them out because that was insanity. Hello, Pam Bondi is calling on hate speech laws, and Kash Patel is out to dinner during the investigation of the biggest political assassination in this country in half a century. Where are our leaders? Why are they not active in duty? As I said before, there's a massive gap in place of leadership here. When do we say enough's enough? When do we demand that this administration replace these fools, these bumbling idiots, and get some competent people in their positions? We were promised transparency. We were promised competence. We were promised that rational people, that the real adults were back in the White House, that people were going to get to the bottom of these crimes that we've been investigating for years. When is Fauci going to have his hearing? By the way, that's a whole other topic. But when are these people going to be brought to justice? Remember when Tulsi Gabbard said that Obama and Brennan and Comey were going to be arrested? They were referred for criminal referrals for the Justice Department? What happened to that? It's been like 3 months. Not a word. I don't think Obama's really scared right now about being arrested. Shame on all of you. All of these guys think they can just get the base riled up and they'll get by because they have no one to answer to at this point. I want to ask everyone out there watching, be honest with yourself right now. They all said they were going to go after. Donald Trump posted videos of Obama being perp walked in handcuffs. AI videos. Were we all supposed to just accept that he was joking? Or were you convinced that maybe we'd actually see some justice? Maybe Brennan and Comey would be fired, or be arrested for the crimes that they committed against this country. Does anyone face justice? We pretend, we post AI videos of these people being arrested, and we think that's enough. No, we want actual arrests. We want these people to face a grilling in the Senate. We want these people to face justice like all the rest of us have to. We want Epstein and his clients to face justice. We want Ghislaine Maxwell to not be pardoned. We want the assassin of Charlie Kirk to face justice. We want the two people who shot Donald Trump, or the one guy who shot Donald Trump, the one guy who almost got close enough to shoot Donald Trump. We want those guys to actually have some information available. We don't know anything about them. Do we not care? Come on. Like, this is ridiculous. Wake up. Stop tricking yourself into being complicit. We were told things that would happen and they're not happening. You can either acknowledge that or you can lie to yourself. But I'm telling you how I feel. I'm telling it how it is. I'm not going to look back on this and say that I lied through this whole thing. I'm going to say that I was sold certain promises. And now I would like to cash in for those, please. We were told that all the Biden administration officials were the most incompetent, bumbling fools, and they were. Now, are we going to be better? Or are we going to continue this ridiculousness where Pam Bondi is going on podcast after podcast and Fox News after Fox News appearance talking about hate speech laws, looking like the biggest liberal on CNN, and Kash Patel is eating spaghetti during an investigation of his friend's murder? Give me a break. It's so ridiculous. Anyways, that's where I think I'll end it off today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Go follow me on Instagram, X, and Spotify. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.
Americanism, not globalism.
I am not a slave. I am a free citizen.
There should be no Federal Reserve system.
Only America first.